Well, some big things in the news today. We welcome you. Big storms coming as if we haven't had enough, just like it was hitting Texas. We're going to talk about that. Millions may be without power as devastating winds come down. But I want to tell you a little story. A few years ago, there was an Egyptian architect whose name was Muhammad Atta, and he came to America, to Florida, entered flight school, and then was trained as to how to fly big planes. Didn't learn how to land them, just to fly them. So he journeyed north, and he came to the city of Virginia Beach, where we live, and he had dinner in a place called Pasta and Pani, which is one place that I go right frequently, at least used to. It's different now, but it was open then. And he passed on from here, and before it was over, he hijacked planes, he and his team and of Muslim fanatics, crashed two airliners into the World Trade Center in New York, killed that plus other planes that he did, including one that went to the Pentagon. 3,000 people died. It was the worst tragedy, civilian tragedy in the history of America. And now there's a Democrat congressman who says, well, some people did some things, some men did some things. I was on the scene, ladies and gentlemen, and watched it. I was doing this program, and we had it on the air, and we saw those planes fly into those World Trade Centers. And then the plane that was aiming for the Pentagon that was crash-landed in Pennsylvania. Horrible. And yet that remark was said to, quote, have been taken out of context by this woman whose name is Omar. And a controversy has arisen about it. And now the Afghan war veteran who helped bring it to light tells CBN News that lawmakers should stop defending her incredible comment. Some men did some things. George Thomas has more.
Republican Congressman and retired Navy SEAL Dan Crenshaw is defending his criticism of Ilhan Omar's 9/11 comments, and he's blasting Democratic lawmakers who still refuse to condemn the Congresswoman's statement. In an exclusive interview with CBN's Abigail Robertson, Crenshaw said it was wrong for Omar to downplay the worst terror attack on American soil.
This is not a case of somebody misspeaking at a certain point. I think it's obvious that she feels a certain way about terrorism, about 9/11 in particular.
Omar was speaking at a fundraising event for the Council on American Islamic Relations, also known as CARE, last month when she made the comment about the attacks.
CARE was founded after 9/11 because they recognized that some people did something and that all of us were starting to lose access to our civil liberties.
That phrase, some people did something, outraged many Americans, including Crenshaw.
I don't want to attribute motivations, but it was dismissive. You know, the way she referred to it was dismissive.
Some have said that statement shows Omar supports terrorism, but Crenshaw pushed back on the accusation.
I don't think she supports any kind of terrorism or anything like that, but she did speak about it in a dismissive and disrespectful way. Okay, and I clearly pointed that out. I said, hey, that's unbelievable. Like, why would you talk about it this way?
The controversy escalated even further after the president retweeted a post that called Omar a sick monster, and in another tweet posted a video with footage of the World Trade Center with the caption, "We will never forget," and included Omar's remarks. That brought a barrage of criticism from Democrats who attacked the president for attacking the Muslim congresswoman, some saying her words were taken out of context.
They do this all the time to us, especially women of color. They do that. They take our words out of context because they're afraid, because we speak truth. We speak truth to power. Taking it out of context, this is just pure racist act by many of those, hateful acts by those, because she does speak truth.
Crenshaw pushed back, saying Omar's words stand for themselves.
These things should be called out. They have to be called out. Nothing was taken out of context. That is a narrative being perpetuated, which is truly dishonest.
Omar even released a statement saying the president's tweet have reportedly led to an increase in threats on her life, and Democrats are accusing critics like Crenshaw and the president of inciting violence against Omar.
The president just tweeted out her own words and said, never forget. I mean, in no way, shape, or form is that inciting violence.
George Thomas, CBN News.
Well, in other news, more than 100 million Americans are in the path of potentially savage storms. Charlene Aaron has more from the CBN newsroom. Here's Charlene.
That's right, Pat. Severe thunderstorms are moving through a large part of the country over the next 3 days. Forecasters are concerned they could bring the same devastating winds and tornadic activity that took 9 lives last weekend. The storms will target the Plains states today, moving east Thursday, ranging from southern Illinois all the way down to the Louisiana-Mississippi coast and taking aim at the South and Mid-Atlantic states on Friday. Well, French President Macron wants to see Notre Dame Cathedral rebuilt in 5 years, a tall order after Monday's fire that engulfed much of the iconic building. So far, they've raised nearly $1 billion towards restoration. This as investigators continue looking into the cause of the fire. Heather Sells has the latest.
Parisians are mourning Notre Dame and cheering their firefighters. This incredible video released by the Paris Fire Brigade shows the heroic operation that eventually saved part of the cathedral.
This is shocking beyond shocking.
Engineers spent Tuesday looking for structural weaknesses as dozens of investigators began the search for a cause. They've ruled out arson and believe the restoration work may be to blame.
The Paris prosecutor says an initial fire alert sounded at 6:20 p.m. on Monday, but no fire was found. A second alert went off 23 minutes later, and the blaze was then discovered on the roof.
Nous avons tant à reconstruire.
The cathedral is government property, and President Macron pledged Tuesday to rebuild an even more beautiful building. He said a 5-year plan is possible, although not everyone agrees. Donations and pledges are pouring in, close to $500 million so far. On a spiritual level, the loss is immeasurable.
Well, I don't think it's possible to overstate the spiritual significance of Notre Dame, either to the French or to Europe or to the West.
And the timing is stunning, the day after Palm Sunday, with Easter approaching. Many believers wonder, could this loss lead to a spiritual reawakening?
Big dramatic moments like this fire in Notre Dame, are a great time to give us pause as individuals, for the French as a nation, but also for us as a wider culture to sort of say, are we really taking seriously what we're preparing for?
The dean of Regent University's seminary told CBN News this could provide France an opportunity to refocus on its Christian heritage.
We sometimes think of France as an ex-Christian country, but I do not think we should make that mistake. There are deep Christian roots there, and the story is not finished yet.
Heather Sells, CBN News.
Pat, back to you.
Well, I want to clarify, the numbers have gone around, but now we understand the number of donations to rebuild has exceeded $1 billion. So contributions are not only coming from a couple of billionaire Frenchmen, but they're coming from all over the world. And as our dean at the School of Divinity at Regent University said, this could be the beginning of a spiritual reformation in France as they turn away from secularism. You know, during the French Revolution, they enshrined reason as their goddess, and they turned away from Christianity. And then there was, of course, that St. Bartholomew's massacre, when there was a killing of the Huguenots all over the country. And then later on, the Edict of Nantes, led by the then emperor, where they turned away, back to a more balanced religion. But the French Revolution was a totally anti-clerical movement. And as one philosopher wrote, écraser l'enfant, get rid of the infamous one. So France could turn back, but we can only hope. Charlene.
Well, thousands of Christian pilgrims are in Jerusalem celebrating Holy Week, visiting the historic locations where Christ spent his final days with his disciples. CBN Middle East Bureau Chief Chris Mitchell shows us how technology is helping unravel the mystery of one of those sacred sites.
The Bible tells us Jesus had a final Passover meal with his disciples before going to the cross. The Cenaculum on Mount Zion is the traditional site, but is this where it really happened?
Christian pilgrims from all over the world come here to the Upper Room to remember the Last Supper of Jesus Christ. Now, Israeli archaeologists know more about this site than ever before.
The Last Supper room is one of the most holy places in Jerusalem. We couldn't conduct here clear and classical archaeological excavation.
So they turned to state-of-the-art technology to uncover the Upper Room's secrets.
Using laser measurement, laser scanning, and an advanced photography technique, we managed to create an accurate 3D model of the place. We even managed to penetrate inside the ancient stones.
For years, many wondered, when was the room built and is it the real place?
Suddenly, we needed to decipher signs and symbols from the wall. Suddenly, we managed to date it, and this wonderful structure is dating to the Crusader period.
Archaeologist Amit Raem said they discovered two biblical symbols never before seen in the Upper Room.
On the keystone, you could see the Holy Lamb, the Agnus Dei.
On another keystone, there's a lion.
The lion actually is a symbol of King David. Now we know, according to the Bible, that Jesus is a descendant of the Davidic dynasty.
Underneath the 12th century Crusader church, there's evidence of a magnificent 4th century Byzantine church.
And maybe the Byzantine built their church on much earlier and ancient sacred site.
For many, visiting the Upper Room is a moving experience.
It's fantastic. It's like this place has the power of the presence, is like a different note on the scale of the Song of God.
Being in Israel during this season and then being in places like the Upper Room just make a huge difference in my faith.
Raem says he's learned one thing as an archaeologist about traditions.
Hear this ancient tradition, explore them, because inside them is hidden some truth.
Chris Mitchell, CBN News, the Upper Room, Jerusalem.
Amazing technology. Pat?
Well, I'm glad for the technology, but I tell you, I hate to pour water on the wonderful feeling that people have. I've been in that Upper Room, and it is so phony. It is so out of context of what Jesus was involved in. There is no way. It's a beautiful structure, but there's no way under heaven. That was where Jesus and his disciples had their Last Supper. It just didn't happen. So if archaeologists can go back, but what they found, they've got a Middle Ages type structure over an older 2nd or 3rd century structure, and neither one of them are the real room. If he was in an Upper Room, it was a rustic kind of simple room. And I've been there, and you say, no way is what's there. Is that the place? I mean, it's just not. But if people go in that and they get all excited, well, God bless them. I mean, you know, the Lord can meet you anywhere. But it takes more than that. I remember one Israeli guide, you know, said, well, they found that this wasn't the place, so they, quote, moved the holiness. They moved it to another location.
What about the Garden Tomb? Do you think
that's the real good?
You think that's the real thing?
I think that's as close to the, you know, where they laid the body of Jesus. I've been there, I've knelt there, and there's a stone there, and it is as authentic as you could possibly get. And so with that place, it conforms to Scripture, but the other, no way. I hate to be cynical on this near holy day, but I just believe that's the way it is.